As we predicted, international pressure now favors Hamas. The public relations war is in full swing tonight. Hamas is going to try its hardest to secure a pause in the fighting, then extend it. They'll use videos of suffering Palestinians and leverage Israel's quest to destroy the terrorist group once and for all. It's a sad state of affairs where hostages are used as, well, beyond political pawns. There's real lives hanging in the balance. With that, we bring in Jason Greenblatt, former White House envoy to the Middle East under the Trump administration, Batya Ungar-Sargon, opinion editor for Newsweek. Jason, let's start with you real quick. Would the Israelis be making this deal, you think, if there wasn't significant pressure from the United States?
Yes, I think they would. I think the Israeli government, which let's remember is a unity government, is being very, very careful with what they do. I think that, and you just heard the IDF spokesperson, they're going to be really careful to monitor what's happening. They understand they're going in completely eyes open, understanding that Hamas is going to take advantage not to take care of the Palestinian people who they've subjugated, but they're going to regroup, they're going to rearm. But I think that the Israelis understand they need to make this deal if it makes sense to them and they can protect the IDF.
I guess, Batya, look, the Israeli mentality towards hostages is different than the Americans. There was a time that America did not negotiate with terrorists because negotiating only gets more hostages taken. Explain to us briefly why the Israelis are willing to make these deals of hundreds of Palestinians. In the case of Gilad Shalit, 1,000 Palestinian prisoners for one Israeli.
Well, clearly what's happening now is very different than the Gilad Shalit situation, right? It was very clear to Israel from the beginning that it was going to have to get rid of Hamas, eviscerate Hamas's ranks, and that from the get-go, Leland, was in tension with doing the most to secure the hostages, because Hamas has been saying from the beginning, get us a ceasefire and we'll return the hostages. Now, of course, do not believe anything Hamas says. But that tension at the heart of this that was created by these monsters in this terrorist group has been there from the beginning. And so I agree with Jason Greenblatt that I don't think that this is external pressure. There is immense pressure from the families within Israel. And it has become, these families of the hostages have become a political constituency that has the heart of the people. Although, of course, everybody is ambivalent about it because of who is being released in exchange.
Jason, look, I have great respect for the IDF. Fair to say they're also the ones whose intelligence services missed October 7th. So you'd think they'd have to at least internally be a little worried about what they might miss in that 5-day pause. But I just go back to this. Why on earth, when you have the tactical momentum, when you're able to keep rolling, do you pause? And the Israelis have to know that in those 5 days, Hamas will use whatever tools they can in a very favorable media environment to make it so much harder for Israel to restart their military campaign.
I don't think they're going to need time to restart. When they're looking into the eyes of these grieving parents, really the grieving nation. I mean, thinking about it, people's loved ones are being tortured there under the tunnels. They were tortured probably when they were dragged into captivity. I think Israel needs to rescue these people, and they will restart this war immediately unless there's a reason not to restart the war. Their goal is to decimate Hamas. Hopefully they reach that goal. They're certainly doing a lot to do it, and as the IDF spokesperson has shown, or will show, as he says, he's going to show the truth about what's happening with Hamas that the New York Times and others lie about. So I think they really have no choice but to do this.
Batya, there's that old saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Why is it that the New York Times, that has consistently carried water for Hamas, consistently reports what Hamas says is unquestioned fact, and then demands this extraordinary burden of proof from Israel? And I fundamentally don't understand this. Why is their support of Hamas more important than even their basic journalist integrity to say, in the past, Hamas has seriously lied about things, and we should note that their credibility is of question?
So first of all, Leland, I and the rest of the Jewish community owe you a huge debt of gratitude for your coverage. The quality has been impeccable. You never compromise on your journalistic values. And what you're pointing out is exactly correct, which is the rest of the media cast in this country is in the bag for Hamas, a terrorist organization that mass rapes and murders and dismembers babies in front of their parents. It is horrifying. They have woke mind virus. They go to elite universities because the vast majority of journalists in this country have a degree from an elite university and a graduate degree where they learn that there's no difference between right versus wrong. There's only who has more power and who has less power, and whoever has less power is inherently more virtuous. That's how they see it. There is something in them that cannot help but give Hamas the benefit of the doubt, as disgusting as that sounds.
Look, I didn't really believe it, frankly, and then I listened to the daily podcast from the New York Times this morning about Al Shifa Hospital. I thought to myself, it was like living in, the mines of Al Jazeera. Because I've lived in that mine before when I was overseas. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.